I want to introduce a skill called dimensional analysis, which is frequently introduced at the same time people are studying proportions and ratios. And I have a definition that's underneath here. I'll show it to you in just a moment. But I want to introduce the idea first so you can get a kind of a better idea of what we're looking at. So let me start with this. We've got a problem. Here, a biologist finds that a certain type of beetle typically travels no more than 48 inches from its nest. How many feet is this? Well, that's not a very difficult question. Most of us are able to since we know that there are 12 inches in a foot, kind of visually, tick off how many feet there are going to be and get 4 feet without much trouble. But when you get to a conversion question that looks more difficult, like this one, dimensional analysis is going to be quite handy. Let me point this out. In 1977, the Gossamer Condor, a human-powered aircraft, flew for 1 mile in about 6 minutes. What was its airspeed, measured in feet per second? Well, that sounds pretty difficult, and it is. We know that there's we're converting something about miles to feet, so that we know there's going to be something with 5,280 because there are 5,280 feet in a mile, and we know there are 60 seconds in a minute. But here's the problem: how do I set this up, and how do I know whether I should multiply by 5,280 or divide, or multiply by 60 or divide? And it takes a lot of thought, and you can eventually get it, but this skill called dimensional analysis will allow you to make this conversion much easier without having to strain as much. So I'm going to show you this definition here. Okay. It's a very useful tool for converting quantities and solving problems where the units of measurement, the units, this should say the dimensions, or right here the dimensions, where the dimensions, that was pretty sloppy, are studied, are analyzed, and help determine the calculations to be done. So we're analyzing the dimensions, here, in other words, the units. So we're going to look at these units, miles and minutes, and recognize that we want to convert to feet and seconds. And the way we set this up is going to help us know whether we should multiply or divide by 60 and multiply and divide by 5,280. It'll take all the guesswork out of it. So let's start in. The way this works is really to set things up and then start converting things, and we're going to convert things using conversion factors. The first thing I'm going to do is write the information I was given, 23 inches per month, and I'm going to write it as a fraction, 23 inches per 1 month. Okay, so I've got this written down, and then I step over to the far side of the paper and I write down, what do I want my information measured in? Yards per year. So I write down what I want at the end. Okay, I do notice something here. I was asked for yards per year. That's yards in the numerator, years in the denominator. So when I wrote my information, I made sure to put the distance unit, inches, and the time unit, months, on the top and bottom respectively, just like the end. I've got the yards on top, the distance unit, so I started with the distance unit on top. I've got the time unit on the bottom, so I started with the time unit on the bottom. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is start multiplying by conversion factors. And here's how you'll set your conversion factor up. I don't want the word inches on the top in my answer. I want yards. So I'm going to write inches on the bottom and yards on the top. And the reason I wrote that is because then we can kind of cancel inches and inches, since one's on the top and one's on the bottom. Kind of like cross-canceling when you're multiplying fractions. Okay? So I put, since I had inches on the top and I didn't want it there, I put inches on the bottom so they would cancel. And I wanted yards on top, so I put yards on top in my conversion factor. Now I need to put the numbers in there, and I know there's 36 inches in a yard, and I've got to make sure I write the 36 in the right place. I wouldn't want to write 36 inches per, 36 yards per 1 inch. That's not correct. It's 1 yard is 36 inches. So I just had to stop and think about that a little bit. Then my next conversion factor, and I know I need another one because right now I've got yards on top like I want, but I've got months on the bottom and I want years on the bottom. Okay? So since months is on the bottom over here, I'll put months on top there. That will allow them to cancel. And I want years on the bottom at the end, so I'll write years here. Now I do need to pay attention. Where does the 12 go? Well, there's 12 months in 1 year. Okay. So when I get finished canceling things, the only things left will be yards per year, which is the way I want my answer. So now I'll simply multiply all these numbers together. 23 times 1 times 12. 23 times 12 equals 276. And on the bottom, 1 times 36 times 1, that's 36. And then we'll divide at the end. 276 divided by 36 is 7.67 or so, okay, yards per year. Okay? And that seems to make sense. If it travels 23 inches in a month, 7 yards per year seems fairly reasonable. Okay? Let's look at another problem. As part of a restricted diet, a large dog is given 28 ounces of food each day. How many pounds of food will the dog eat in 1 week? Well, when it's all said and done, I want to have my answer in pounds per week. So I'll start with the information I was given, and I'll make sure I put pounds, not pounds, ounces. Okay, that's my weight unit, over days, 1 day, which is my time unit. So since I have my weight per time, I started out with my weight per time. Now, I need to use some conversion factors here to make things cancel out correctly. Okay? Let's deal with the ounces first. Since it's on top, I'll put ounces on the bottom. I'll go ahead and abbreviate it on the bottom so that it will cancel out. Ounces here, ounces there. When it's all done, I don't want ounces anymore. I want pounds. Okay? Now, I do need to know the right numbers. Is it 16 pounds is 1 ounce, or 1 pound is 16 ounces? Well, it's 1 and 16. Got to be careful there. Okay? That will allow the ounces and ounces to cancel out, leaving me pounds per day. But remember, I want pounds per week, so I'll need another conversion factor. Since I have days on the bottom and I don't want days anymore, I'll put days on the top. That'll allow it to cancel. And I want weeks on the bottom. Okay? Well, is it 1 day is 7 weeks? No, it's 7 days is 1 week. Okay? Canceling allows me to check. The only dimension left on the top is pounds, which is what I want. The only dimension left on the bottom is weeks, which is what I want. I'm set to go. You'll notice here that this helps me decide quite easily whether I should multiply or divide by 16 and whether I should multiply or divide by 7. I don't have to worry about confusing myself anymore. So now let's just do the multiplication. 28 times 1 times 7. That's 196. Okay. And 1 times 16 times 1. Okay. So now I just need to do 196 divided by 16. And I'll have my answer. 12.25 pounds per week. And I finished my conversion. Okay? So the first thing I do is I write down, what do I want it to end? This was pounds per week. Okay? Then I set the information I was given up in the same format. In this case, it was weight unit over time unit, so weight unit over time unit. And then I write conversion factors that will allow all the dimensions to cancel out except for the ones I want. Then I calculate, and I'm finished. Okay, that's it.